वयं तु न वितृप्याम उत्तमश्लोकविक्रमे यत् शृण्वतां रसज्ञानां स्वादु स्वादु पदे पदे. Translation goes like this. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment. Previous verse told how to get out of the influence of the Kali, that is to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How to then glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead means we have to develop taste for the messages of the Lord. We have to develop the taste for the pastimes of the Lord. How it will happen? By hearing again and again. Pade pade here refers to again and again. Swadu swadu means relishing. Yashrunvatam rasagyanam. We other day discussed on Saturday about rasa. Rasa is the relationship between like-minded species, same species. Rasagyanam means those who are conversant with rasa, they relish swadu swadu, pade pade, they relish at every moment, at every step. And hearing what? Yat srinvatam uttama shloka vikrame. By hearing about the glorification of the Supreme Lord. Uttama shloka means one who is glorified by the uttama shlokas, one who is glorified by the best prayers, transcendental prayers, divine prayers, the prayers from Bhagavatam and other scriptures like that. Uttama shloka vikrame. And vikrame means adventures or the leelas, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uttama shloka vikrame. By the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One, by hearing those, et sunvatam, develops taste, swadu swadu pade pade. Vayam tu na vitrupyama. We never tire of hearing these pastimes. Vayam tu na vitrupyam. We are never tired of hearing these pastimes. Purport. Srila Prabhupada is saying some wonderful things in this purport. But we'll speak one line at a time and I'll try to explain. There is a great difference between mundane stories, fiction or history and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Many times people read mundane stories, newspaper, fiction, novels or some history, politics. And there's a vast difference between hearing all those junk things and hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Because all those things, if we hear repeatedly, we get frustrated. But if we hear repeatedly, again and again the same pastime also, we will become overwhelmed with the love for the Supreme Lord. The histories of the whole universe contain references to the pastimes of the incarnation of the Lord. If we read the history of not a country or history not from post-independence or history from last 100 years, if we read the history of the whole universe, the Brahmanda and different planets in this Brahmanda and the rulers of all these planets and the people there, they are discussing about the pastimes of the Lord that he performed in this Brahmanda. So the histories of the whole universe contain references to the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata and the Puranas are histories of bygone ages recorded in connection with the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord and therefore remain fresh even after repeated readings. Srila Prabhupada's suggestion is that you want to read history, read the history of the universe. Read the Ramayana, the history of Lord Rama. Read Mahabharata, the history of the Kurus, the Bharatas. And read the Puranas. They are the real history, because these histories are recorded in connection with the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord, and therefore they remain fresh even after repeated readings. We read 100 times, 200 times, 300 times, we'll be thrilled, we'll be progressed, we will attain love for Krishna. For example, anyone may read Bhagavad Gita or the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam repeatedly throughout his whole life and yet find in them new light of information. In fact, Gandhiji said that every time I read Bhagavad Gita, I get a new meaning. Srila Prabhupada liked that quote very much, and that's why we see many times that in the beginning. For example, Srila Prabhupada is saying, whether one reads Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, any transcendental literature, they will be able to find new light of information. Every time we read, we feel like some revelation, because Krishna brought these things to claim the fallen souls like us back home, back to Godhead. So they give address about the Lord, they give information about the Lord, they revive these books, relationship with the Lord. Mundane news is static, whereas transcendental news is dynamic, in as much as the spirit is dynamic and matter is static. Now Prabhupada is talking about mundane literatures versus transcendental literatures like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. He's saying mundane literature is static, transcendental literature is dynamic. How to understand this thing? Just like spirit is dynamic, matter is static. That is the difference between the body and soul. Prakriti is static and spirit is dynamic. Because of the presence of the dynamic spirit, the static Prakriti appears to be dynamic. But actually Prakriti is static, the spirit is dynamic. So mundane literatures are static and transcendental literature is dynamic. Those who have developed a taste for understanding the transcendental subject matter are never tired of hearing such narrations. How to understand this and how to develop taste for reading? By repeatedly reading, we will get the taste. Those who have developed taste for understanding the transcendental subject matter, they are never tired of hearing such narrations. If we have to hear, in the beginning it may appear to be difficult, we're not able to grasp, but as soon as we develop taste, we relish. But how to develop taste? By repeated hearing and reading in the association of devotees. Like this, what we are doing. One is quickly satiated by mundane activities, but no one is satiated by transcendental or devotional activities. One more thing Srila Prabhupada is saying. Previously said mundane news or mundane things are just like static. Now he's telling about one more thing. One is quickly satiated by mundane activities. One actually no longer want it after some time. One gets frustrated actually. But one is not satiated by transcendental or devotional activities. No matter how much we read, how much we chant, how much we glorify the Supreme Lord, we are not satiated. Uttama Shloka indicates that literature which is not meant for nice. Uttama Shloka means glorified with choice poetry, glorified in the scriptures, glorified with the best of the verses, glorified by the great personalities. Uttama Shloka indicates the literature which is not meant for nice. It is not meant for mundane scientific people or mundane people. Mundane literature is in the mode of darkness or ignorance, whereas transcendental literature is quite different. Another difference between mundane literature and transcendental literature. Mundane literature is in the mode of ignorance. Transcendental literature is in Suddha Sattva. The other day I explained what Suddha Sattva is. Quite different. Transcendental literature is above the mode of darkness. and its light becomes more illuminous with progressive reading and realization of the transcendental subject matter. So not only above the mode of darkness, above the mode of passion, above the mode of goodness, and beyond that. And it illuminates one and makes one understand the transcendental subject matter. The so-called liberated persons are never satiated by the repetition of the words Aham Brahmasmi. Prabhupada is actually calling the so-called liberated persons. Who are these so-called liberated persons? They are the impersonalists, Mayavadis. What they say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am that Brahman, I am that Brahman, I am the God, I am the Supreme. Now I am not, but I will become God. I want to become God. I want to become one with God. I want to take over the position of the God. I am God. So he's talking about those people. And though they appear to be realized, that realization is artificial. Such artificial realization of Brahman becomes hackneyed, and so to relish real pleasure, they turn to the narrations of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Even such people, after reciting things like Aham Brahmasmi, after claiming that they are God, are not satisfied. If they are God, they should be satisfied. They will be satisfied if they become devotees and they turn to the narrations of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Those who are not so fortunate turn to altruism and worldly philanthropy. Those who are not that fortunate, they will take up helping others and also doing some philanthropic activities, distributing color TVs and whatever other equipment for people. This means the Mayavadi philosophy is mundane, whereas the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is transcendental. And Prabhupada is calling Mayavada philosophy is also mundane. Initially called that newspapers, fictions, and all those things are mundane. Now he's towards the end, he's concluding that even their philosophy, Mayavada philosophy, is also mundane, because at the end it says that you are God. And there are so many gods who are unsatisfied gods. So only the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is transcendental. Anyone who wants complete bliss, complete satisfaction, joy, they have to read Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from the explanation of the Vaishnava Acharyas, who are personalists, they are devotees, because Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktyamam abhijanati. I am known only by my devotees. Only they can explain the meaning of these verses in the purpose. I'll stop here. Anybody has any question, comment, please ask now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
That question in the Bhagavad Gita, that how to understand when Srila Prabhupada is telling Arjuna has material emotions or due to his being devotee.
Arjuna has material emotions.
Sometimes he is criticizing, sometimes he is praising.
Yeah.
What he is doing.
Prabhupada appears to sometimes criticize Arjuna, sometimes praise Arjuna. Sometimes he is saying he has material emotion, weakness of the heart. Sometimes he is saying that he is compassionate and has Vaishnava qualities. It is confusing. What is the right thing? Why is Prabhupada saying this or that? As I told you, in the beginning verses, purports of the beginning verses of the first chapter and the ending verses of the first chapter, Prabhupada is very clear. He is telling that Arjuna is the great devotee of the Supreme Lord. He is feeling compassion for the other living entities, namely his teachers, elders, relatives, friends, well-wishers, sons, and so on. It is the quality of a Vaishnava. But some verses in the middle, he is saying that it is not referring to Arjuna. He is referring to the conditioned soul like us who are confused, who do not know what to do, who has material weakness, who has mundane affection. Arjuna is just became instrument so that the Bhagavad Gita is spoken. if Prabhupada is not criticizing Arjuna is an eternal associate of the Lord, Prabhupada is creating the role played by Arjuna. What is that role? It is me and you, the conditioned souls. So, we have to understand Arjuna is an eternally liberated associate of the Lord. He is in full Krishna consciousness, no confusion. But he is playing that role because Krishna wants him to be a recipient. Krishna wants to be a transparent via medium for propagating the message of Bhagavad Gita. So he is representing us. If Prabhupada is chastising, it is us, the conditioned souls, but not Arjuna. Hare Krishna.